Good evening and welcome to Hairenik Media News Broadcast. We begin tonight in the heart of Armenia, where thousands have come together at Freedom Square in the capital Yerevan for a powerful mass rally demanding justice for the Armenians of Artsakh. The demonstrators called for dignified living conditions for Artsakh residents, the prevention of forced immigration, the release of hostages, and the preservation of Armenian cultural heritage in the region. Our correspondents Nare Navasartyan and Narek Alexanyan were reporting live from the scene.
Greetings, Hairenik Media. We're here on Freedom Square to support the Artsakh's demands to respect their rights in their homeland, Republic of Armenia, their larger extended homeland. The speakers at the demonstration emphasized that even though the right to return is the most important thing for them, they also need to resolve, this government resolve their issues with housing, issues with the job market, issues with human rights, their hate speech, etc., before we can move on to the liberation of Artsakh. And the rally was attended by thousands and thousands of Artsakhis, and the organizers gave this government 1 week to respond to these demands.
Now, for more insight into this significant event, let's welcome Nare Navasartyan. Good evening, Nare.
Hi, Annie.
What specific challenges are displaced Artsakh Armenians currently facing in Armenia, and how did these issues play into the reasons for the protest?
The Artsakhis in Armenia are facing many issues, from housing to jobs to being able to afford rent, to cases of hate speech, cases of the police targeting them, to their legal status. It's a whole bundle of issues. And this rally, even though it was prompted by this government's intention to cut the 40+10 socioeconomic support system in the coming months, it was not only about the system, but also about the larger issues, the issues of their rights and their protection, both in the homeland and on the international arena. And this rally was organized by the Committee for the Protection of the Fundamental Rights of the People of Artsakh, and they listed the demands, and one of them is to continue the socioeconomic support system in place. The government currently provides around less than $150 per Artsakhi, and not even all Artsakhis are able to get it, and this is crucial for paying rent under conditions when not everyone is integrated into the job market. Sometimes they have just one worker per family, and they're facing, on top of the cultural erasure that Baku has organized, they are facing significant challenges in the Republic of Armenia, and they feel like not enough is being also done for the realization of their right to return.
The rally organizers have set a 1-week deadline for the government to respond to their demands. What are the key demands they have put forth, and what kind of response are they hoping for?
Yes, Artsakh Mkrtchyan, who was member of this board of the Committee of the Protection of the Rights of Artsakhis, he handed the list of demands to the representatives of the Pashinyan regime, and they have responded that within a week, and they will get a reply. Some of their demands include to continue this program of social support 40+10, to raise the issues of security guarantees for their right to return on the international arena in negotiations, to do more for the preservation of the cultural heritage of Artsakh, because this is a part of ethnocide that is being done to our people, and to do more with the programs of housing and jobs, which they say, according to Artsakhis, these programs do not really meet their demands, and they need improvement. And this government that a year and a half ago has took on this mission of defending the Artsakhi's rights, at least in the socioeconomic sphere, has failed in many ways. And Artsakhi's want all these demands to be met, so they will later have the right to return.
Can you elaborate on the significance of the right to collective return to Artsakh? Why is this demand so important for the displaced Artsakh population?
As the human rights defender of Artsakh, Geram Stepanyan, mentioned, the rights of these people will not be protected better anywhere else except Artsakh. This is a fundamental right for the indigenous population to live on their homelands, the right to have their real estate, to have their memories, their continuation, their dialect. It's just a combination of factors. And as Stepanyan mentioned, to forget these things is to forget who we are, who Artsakhi's are, and they are not going to forget it. They are going to continue to pursue justice for their cause.
Can you discuss the concerns raised about the preservation of Armenian heritage in Artsakh? What specific threats are cultural monuments and private properties facing?
As Lernik Hovanesyan, an ethnographer and an expert in Armenian studies, mentioned, after forcibly removing Artsakhi's from their historic homeland, Baku is now doing cultural ethnocide, destroying significant monuments, churches, destroying entire historical quarters in Artsakh, so that no trace or memory of the place will remain, and so that the right to return will no longer have a significant amount of their basis. Lernik also mentioned that Artsakh was a treasury of Armenian heritage. It was not, as some governmental circles proclaim, a bad place or an unnecessary burden, and that it is the demand of Artsakhi's and all Armenians to work to protect this cultural heritage as much as possible, using both national and international mechanisms, so that when the right of return is able to be realized, we will be able to again enjoy this cultural heritage, showcase it and be proud of it, and revel in its continuation.
What is the government's current stance on these protests, especially given the heavy police presence? Have there been any indications of how they plan to respond to the demonstrators' demands?
The government representatives have promised to respond to these demands within a week. But given their track record with Artsakhi's rights protection, there isn't much hope, and the only course of action is to continue pressuring them by any means possible. And the members of the committee have also mentioned that this is only the beginning, and they plan to appeal to international organizations, to local organizations, to hold bigger rallies, and after this week passes, they will hold discussions and notify the public about their next step.
Nare, let's move to another significant development in the homeland, the Parakar elections yesterday, where the opposition won decisively. What details do you have on this political shift?
Yes, Parakar, which is a community of 20,000 voters, now has a new mayor, Valodya Grigoryan, from Abrelu Yergir, which is a party led by Mane Tandilyan. And securing 57% of the votes against the civil contract candidate and two of its satellites, Grigoryan is now mayor, and this caused big celebrations in the Parakar community. Everybody was just so happy. He's very popular in this village, and getting victory against the ruling party gave this spark of joy and a faith in the future in the community that is adjacent to Gyumri.
And what updates can you provide us about the Gyumri elections?
Snap elections held in Gyumri yesterday, even though they were marked by voter fraud and cases of intimidation by the ruling party, as reported by everyone, including the Hayek mission, to oversee the voting. Despite all this, the civil contract was unable to secure a victory in the elections. There were 5 parties and factions that crossed the necessary threshold. The first one was civil contract, given the extensive use of administrative resource, advertisement and everything. The amount of resources used were more than 85% of the total number of the total amount spent in these elections by anyone. So understandably, they were able to get 36%. That being said, 2 of the other parties that have crossed the threshold have joined the most popular opposition member, Vartan Ghukasyan, which was second, and he was in these elections with the Communist Party. Now everything depends on Mardun Grigoryan from Merkalaka faction, our city, and if he does decide to join the opposition, then Gyumri will not have a civil contract ruling party mayor. Right now, the mandates in Gyumri are as follows. Civil contract will get 14 members in the Council of Elders. The Communist Party will get 8. It's led by Vartan Ghukasyan. Mardon Grigoryan's faction, Merkalaka, will get 6. Ruben Mkhitaryan led Im Hazor Hamaynka, my powerful community, will get 3. And Garen Simonyan with Mayr Hayastan will get 2 seats in the Council of Elders.
Nare Navar Sartian, our correspondent in Yerevan, thank you.
Thank you, Ani.
Tensions continue to grow as the Armenian government pushes forward with what it calls a peace agreement with Azerbaijan, not a formal treaty. This distinction matters. A peace treaty is binding and enforceable, but an agreement may carry no legal weight. Critics warn that the government is hiding key details from the public, including whether Armenian land or infrastructure will be handed over. After the forced displacement of Artsakh's Armenian population in 2023, officials have all but erased Artsakh from political dialogue. The Armenian government continues negotiations despite repeated Azerbaijani border violations and threats. Citizens are left with more questions than answers, fearing the deal may be a national betrayal masquerading as peace. Deputy Foreign Minister Baruyr Hovhannisyan addressed growing concern over the peace deal. He admitted that a signed agreement wouldn't eliminate the risk of attack, but could reduce it. So far, Baku hasn't responded to Armenia's proposal to finalize the agreement. Hovhannisyan highlighted support from 58 countries and 10 international organizations. He also pointed to the presence of EU observers as a safeguard and suggested expanding their role in future peace-building efforts. During his speech at the National Assembly, Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan delivered a significant blow to Artsakh and its Armenian population by declaring that the Gharabagh movement for the self-determination of its people should not continue. His statement was prompted by a question from Lilit Galistyan, a deputy from the opposition Armenia faction and a member of the ARF Bureau, who asked about the government's action plan for securing the release of Armenian prisoners from Baku and the potential ramifications of withdrawing claims from international courts. Pashinyan stated that the peace agreement contains no unilateral obligations, but was interrupted by a loud phone ring. Galistyan remarked that the call allowed Pashinyan to finish his meaningless, ineffective speech, asserting that withdrawing claims would weaken Armenia's position, and citing comments from the German foreign minister about Armenia's concessions. Pashinyan emphasized that the decision to continue the Gharabagh movement lies with Armenia and its people. He asserted firmly, "I believe we should not pursue the Qarabağ movement. The path to peace is the most effective means to resolve the issue of prisoners. There is no better solution." Pashinyan's remarks faced immediate backlash from opposition leaders. ARF Deputy Yerevan Manukyan referenced Pashinyan's past statements, calling the Qarabağ movement the sole national movement of recent centuries. In response, Pashinyan revealed that he reached this conclusion after reflecting on his experiences and highlighted the significance of studying and analyzing history as a component of education. Manukyan responded by suggesting that Pashinyan should prioritize his own education before attempting to educate others. This comment provoked Pashinyan, who reiterated that the Qarabağ movement would not continue, declaring, "As long as I'm prime minister, this will be Armenia's official position." A tense incident unfolded at the Armenian National Assembly when security guards forcibly removed journalists staging a peaceful protest in response to an insult by Civil Contract MP Andranik Kocharyan toward one of their colleagues. The journalists attempted to display a poster in the press booth, leading to intervention from the parliamentary security. Former human rights defender Arman Tatoyan condemned the guards' actions, asserting that journalists' protest was entirely legal and intended to defend their rights. The Armenian parliament has adopted a bill to initiate EU accession, signaling a pivot toward the West. Deputy Foreign Minister Barud Hovhannisyan stressed that the move is symbolic and not yet a formal bid. In response to Armenia's move towards the EU, official Moscow warned Armenia to choose between joining the European Union or the Russia-backed Eurasian Economic Union. Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexei Overchuk stated that Armenia cannot sit on two chairs simultaneously and that moving toward Europe could impact Armenia's economic relations with Russia. Turning to international developments, Belgium's federal parliament will hold official hearings on Artsakh on April 2nd. The resolution proposed by the Committee on Foreign Relations emphasizes the safe return for Armenians, calls out Azerbaijani hostility, urges the preservation of Armenian cultural sites, and demands the release of Armenian hostages and long-term peace in the region. Kaspar Karampetyan, president of the European Armenian Federation for Justice and Democracy, has been invited to present the Federation's perspective during the hearings. 60 U.S. representatives have called on Secretary of State Marco Rubio to fully enforce Section 907 of the Freedom Support Act and end military aid to Azerbaijan. Citing ethnic cleansing, land occupation, and human rights abuses, the lawmakers argue that Azerbaijan must face consequences. Representatives Mike Lawler, Frank Pallone, Gus Bilirakis, and Gabe Amo led the bipartisan congressional letter sent to Secretary Rubio. The Armenian National Committee of America welcomed this bipartisan move as a critical step toward accountability. ANCA Executive Director Aram Hamparian commented, "In the wake of Azerbaijan's genocidal ethnic cleansing of the indigenous Armenian Christians of Artsakh, amid its ongoing occupation of sovereign Armenian territory and illegal detention of Armenian hostages, we cannot ask U.S. taxpayers to subsidize this oil-rich, violent, and corrupt foreign dictatorship." The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, USCIRF, has reported a deterioration of religious freedom in Azerbaijan, citing abuse of Armenian prisoners of war and the systematic destruction of Armenian religious sites. The findings include violence against Armenian Christian detainees, including beatings and psychological abuse, as well as targeted attacks on Armenian cultural heritage in Artsakh, with satellite documentation revealing the destruction of religious locations and monuments. Freedom House supports these findings, labeling Azerbaijan's actions as religious and war crimes aimed at erasing the ethnic Armenian population. USCIRF has called on the U.S. government to impose targeted sanctions on Azerbaijan, permit independent international observers in Nagorno-Karabakh, and reconsider the waiver of Section 907 of the Freedom Support Act, which relates to U.S. aid to Azerbaijan. During his visit to Yerevan, Iranian Foreign Minister Sayed Abbas Araghchi has reaffirmed that Tehran supports the territorial integrity, sovereignty, and independence of the countries in the South Caucasus, reiterating Tehran's opposition to changes in internationally recognized borders in the region. During a joint press conference with his Armenian counterpart Ararat Mirzoyan, Arakchi stated that all regional issues must be resolved through dialogue and diplomacy without the use of force. In his turn, Mirzoyan reiterated Yerevan's readiness to launch consultations with Baku to determine a place and date for signing the peace agreement, but so far there has been no such readiness expressed by Azerbaijan. He also confirmed that Yerevan is ready to continue negotiations, despite Baku presenting new conditions. Baku's response to Mirzoyan's remarks was swift. Just hours after the press conference of the Iranian and Armenian foreign ministers, Azerbaijani Foreign Ministry spokesman Ayhan Hajizadeh asserted that Baku's position is not a new condition. He noted that the two issues, amending the Armenian constitution and disbanding the Minsk group, had been key points of discussion in the negotiation process for the past 2.5 years, a fact that the Armenian foreign minister is well aware of. Residents in Syunik province report nightly gunfire over 5 consecutive days, believed to originate from Azerbaijani forces. Earlier last week, reports confirmed that Azerbaijani forces opened fire on Armenian positions near Sotk in Gegharkunik province. Bullet casings were discovered at the Sotk mine, adding to concerns about continued Azerbaijani aggression despite ongoing negotiations. The Defense Ministry has yet to issue a statement downplaying the activity. Gunshots were also heard near the town of Goris, heightening concerns along the volatile border. A rare diplomatic meeting occurred in Aleppo, Syria, where Turkey's Consul General Muammer Hakan Cengiz and the Vice Consul visited Armenia's long-standing consulate. Welcoming the guests, Armenia's Consul General in Aleppo, Ara Avedisyan, congratulated Cengiz on the reopening of the Turkish consulate after a long break, his appointment to the position, and the occasion of Ramadan. The visit coincided with Armenia's delivery of humanitarian aid to Syria through Turkish territory. However, concerns have been raised regarding the intended recipients of the aid and whether Armenia is being drawn into a broader Turkish geopolitical agenda. March 22 marked the somber anniversary of the Shushi massacre, which occurred from March 22 to 26, 1920. Tens of thousands of Armenians were killed by Caucasian Tatar forces supported by the Musavat regime. Churches, schools, and cultural institutions were burned in what remains one of the most devastating atrocities in Armenian history. Another historic moment on the same date is March 26, 1992, when the Artsakh Self-Defense Committee was formed under Serge Sarkisyan, laying the foundation for the Artsakh Defense Army. Turkey is witnessing massive nationwide protests sparked by the arrest of Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, a key figure in the opposition Republican People's Party (CHP), who faces corruption and terrorism support allegations that his supporters view as politically motivated. His arrest has mobilized millions across the country to take to the streets, demanding his release and the resignation of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. In response, Turkish police, under instructions from Ankara's authorities, have resorted to brutal force against protesters, leading to the detention of hundreds of protesters, including journalists and activists. Despite the unrest, Erdogan has characterized the opposition as weak and has vowed to continue fighting corruption. İmamoğlu is seen as Erdogan's main rival in the upcoming presidential elections, and the CHP has nominated him as their presidential candidate while calling for snap elections. Now we explore how Azerbaijan is leveraging football to promote political narratives. Qarabağ FK, labeled a refugee club, along with the newly formed Yerevan FK, named after Armenia's capital, are part of a broader strategy to reshape history and assert territorial claims. These clubs are used not just for sports, but as tools for normalizing state propaganda on the international stage, turning football into a vehicle for narrative warfare against Armenian heritage. In local community news, the Lowell Aharonian Gomide of the Armenian Revolutionary Federation, the first ARF chapter established in North America, celebrated its 130th anniversary on Saturday, March 22. The event took place at the Kazanjan Memorial Ballroom of St. Vartanans Church in Chelmsford, Massachusetts. Master of Ceremonies Dr. Arajek Navorian welcomed attendees and invited Reverend Father Khachadur Kesablian, pastor of St. Vartanans Church, to offer the opening invocation followed by the singing of the anthems of the United States, Armenia, and the ARF. Stepan Dulgarian, chair of the Lowell ARF, addressed the crowd and honored ARF members who have dedicated 50 years to the organization. AYF members Zaven Kuchakjian and Michael Mahlebjian from Middlesex and North Andover congratulated the Lowell ARF on its remarkable 130-year history. Dr. Jack Navorian, who also serves as co-chair of the Merrimack Valley ANC, provided an update on the activities of the Armenian National Committee and encouraged attendees to become ANC rapid responders. Ani Babayan introduced the guest speaker, Professor Christina Maranchi, highlighting her remarkable academic credentials as the first woman and Armenian to hold the prestigious Mashtots Chair of Armenian Studies at Harvard University. Professor Maranchi addressed the issue of the destruction of Artsakh's cultural heritage by Azerbaijan, presenting a map of Artsakh that illustrated the hundreds of Armenian cultural sites at risk of being destroyed or misidentified as Caucasian Albanian. Maranchi emphasized the use of satellite technology to document and track the fate of these sites. The program concluded with a blessing from Reverend Father Stepan Baljan, pastor of St. Gregory Armenian Church in North Andover. The Armenian National Committee of America kicked off its 2025 Rising Leaders Initiative with an energizing first session from March 8 to 11, bringing together students and young professionals from the U.S. and Canada for 4 days of high-impact advocacy, career development, and civic engagement in the nation's capital. The program featured keynote remarks from ANCA Chairman George Aljayan, who discussed the power of civic engagement. Participants then explored media careers with insights from Politico's senior politics editor Charlie Madessian, followed by hands-on resume workshops and networking sessions led by mentors from the ANCA Hovik Aposardejian Capital Gateway Program, CGP, including Haikov Sepyan, Tade Isakhanyan, and Areni Markosyan. A career panel featuring CGP Advisory Committee Chair Emeritus Isakhanyan and Advisory Committee member Casey Davison offered insights into the public policy landscape in Washington, D.C. That's all for tonight's broadcast. Thank you for joining, and don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X. Good night.